I think marketing actually gets more exciting after somebody says, yes, I want to be a customer, because that's how you build true momentum. We all know it's easier to sell to that person that already trusts you.
Yes.
That person that already trusts you is telling their friends who then already trust you.
Yes.
So, that to me is the part that was completely neglected by most businesses.
Welcome to Tip Top Grow Up Your Business with Metronomics. Join me, Shannon Susko, and Metronomics certified coach, Ged Roberts.
We'll be talking to business thought leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business team coaches who have all taken the journey to grow up their businesses to their tip top.
We'll be sharing strategies, systems, stories, on how you can grow your company up at the speed you want.
If you're searching for your path to the tip top and feel your time is running out, then this podcast is for you.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to Tip Top Grow Your Business with Metronomics, the podcast where we help high-growth business leaders scale with confidence, clarity, and a system that works. I'm your host, Shannon Susko, and today we're diving into the topic every business needs, but not every CEO feels in control of, which is marketing. We know that without a solid marketing system, growth stalls, but too often CEOs and leadership teams see marketing as a black box. I know I certainly did. Maybe I still do. I always leave that to the experts. But there are things that we can learn, things we can do, and I'm super excited about today's conversation because my guest today is someone who's dedicated their career to helping businesses make marketing simple, strategic, and scalable. So welcome, John Jantsch.
Hey, thanks for having me, Shannon.
If you don't already know John, he's the founder of Duct Tape Marketing, a small business marketing expert, which I devoured these books, multiple books. The Ultimate Marketing Machine, Duct Tape Marketing, which is my favorite, which is also called the Small Business Marketing Bible. John, did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I always call it the most practical small business marketing guide.
Oh my gosh, it is practical, and that's what I'm excited about today. So, John, welcome. Huge fan. I am definitely a huge fan. You've been helping businesses get marketing right for decades. What inspired you to create Duct Tape Marketing?
Well, I did, as you mentioned, started my own agency 30 years ago. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, I knew I could hustle work. That was about it. That was my whole plan. So I jumped in and I got big projects, little projects, big clients, little clients, and kind of found that I was running myself ragged. And so my only experience was working in a large agency. And so I was trying to do it the way I'd seen it done. And it wasn't working for me. But I did get a couple clients that were small businesses. And I just loved working with them. It was so much more gratifying. You could have more impact. When they wrote that check, it was like, am I paying for braces or am I writing a check to you, And so to me, that was just a lot more fun, frankly. But I had trouble making it work. They had the same needs and challenges, never the same budgets or even attention spans, quite frankly. So I just one day, I won't say on a lark, probably felt like it, kind of walked into my next prospect and I said, look, here's what you're going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. Here are the results we hope we get. And here's what it's going to cost. Do you want it or not? And kind of trying to solve my frustration of how to work with small businesses, I realized pretty quickly I tapped into what is probably still today one of the greatest frustrations with small business. It is very hard to buy marketing services. I mean, everybody's selling a piece of the pie, the next new thing, the next new idea, right? And so the fact that somebody walked in and said, look, we're going to start with strategy before tactics. We're going to install a marketing system and you're going to know what it costs. It was music to their ears, frankly. And that's what I built my entire practice on. That is the basis of Duct Tape Marketing, the book. And now today we actually have licensed probably well over 400 agencies that use our methodology as well.
So one of my favorite things, there's a lot of things in that story you just told us. One, about where you started. Two, about where we saw, what really got you excited and the light bulb going off. But the third thing is so near and dear to my heart, which is a system. And your idea to approach marketing building that idea of marketing as a system. Can you explain a little bit more what that means and why it's so critical for businesses today?
I think the idea that it starts with a strategy. So understanding, who really is your ideal customer, and it's 80% or not your ideal customer. So it's starting there, but then understanding, what do you do? What problem do you really solve for them? I mean, nobody ever wakes up. I don't know anybody that's woken up and said, I'm going to go buy some marketing strategy today. I've been really wanting some of that, right? But they have all kinds of symptoms, of the problems of why their marketing's not working. So that's the essence then of kind of the core message. But the other thing that I discovered pretty early on was that, a lot of people think of marketing as, okay, I got the phone to ring, I got the order, done. And really it's this end-to-end customer journey that in fact, I think marketing actually gets more exciting after somebody says, yes, I want to be a customer. Because that's how you build true momentum. We all know it's easier to sell to that person that already trusts you. That person that already trusts you is telling their friends who then already trust you. So that to me is the part that was completely neglected by most businesses. I mean, it happened accidentally maybe, but certainly not focused on. And so our system really is geared to make sure that we're focused on every part of the marketing and the marketing strategy. And the one ingredient that's missing from a lot of people in marketing, I know this one's I'm teeing this one up for you, Shannon, is that if marketing strategy is not tied to known business strategy, known business objectives, then there's a really good chance we're wasting a lot of our time. And so that's another key component of an effective marketing system.
Yeah, I think it's why when I learned of all of this, I was so excited about it, because it's like we have a system for our core business. Metronomics is all about that system end to end, but this is a critical piece. This sits right at the front of what we call the key function flow map. And if we can't get this system right, well, the rest of it really doesn't matter. And the overlap, what I love, is around the core customer, right? That who are we going to serve over and over and over again? And that's where, the real profitability comes into play. So as you know, at Metronomics, we emphasize the importance of that proven, repeatable system to scale a business, right? We're always talking about just make it into step-by-step team habits, make it happen. Because you see lots of businesses, what common challenges do you see when businesses try to scale without a marketing system in place? Maybe give some of our listeners a little idea, and they're probably thinking about it as well, and maybe have experienced a few of those things.
Well, so most of them do it backwards, is what the challenge is. And what I mean by that is they say, let's go run some ads because we need leads, right? That's the front end of it, right? And what I mean by backwards is, let's get our fulfillment nailed. When somebody becomes a customer, let's make sure they have an amazing experience. All right. Then let's back up and say, okay, when we get a lead, let's make sure that we are converting those. Like the message is so right that they're going to become customers. Let's go run some ads. Right. And what most people do is they just kind of throw money at stuff because everybody believes I need more leads. I think that they leave a lot of what happens after that to chance. Over the years, somebody's come to me and said, look, we're really hurting. I need, what's the first thing you could do the fastest to fix? And I just go and I fix their lead conversion. I fix what they're doing when somebody calls them, what the message is, because we make you're the numbers person. You make 1 or 2% change there. And boy, that all drops to the bottom line immensely.
Yeah. Amazing. And I love how you talked about, most start, at the back rather than at the front. And we see that a lot because of the pure need to close some business, pure need. And we're throwing lots of cash at that, right? We're going, oh, that didn't work. And we're not going to the front, of the system even in strategy, we see that as well.
I mean, we're constantly testing before we roll anything out and measuring before we, and a lot of people just let's hope this works. And so, again, that's a key component of it.
And I loved how you talked about earlier around lining up strategy with, of course, our marketing strategy, our marketing system. And we see, the gaps, you've seen it, I've seen it, between marketing and business strategy. And often they're disconnected. More than not, they're disconnected. And a lot of it is just that clarity of strategy, but also the clarity of marketing. How should CEOs think about aligning marketing with their overall business goals? Like, I'm sure you run into this all the time to look at lining it up. How do we line it up?
Well, so the way we line it up, we have a pyramid. Of course, any good consultant has pyramids that they work with. But the bottom rung is that what are our business objectives? And I'm sure you do this all the time. I mean, we work with a lot of businesses that they can't answer that question. So we start there and try to at least get some clarity. Like, where are you really trying to go with this? How many new clients do you actually need? Those are things that you should have at least an idea of before you try to map out any marketing strategy. But then marketing strategy actually has three layers, quite frankly, to it. And a lot of people miss two of them. The first one is you have to have a brand strategy. What do we want the market to believe about who we are? And how can we reinforce that? Like, that's the first part. Second part is, okay, how are we going to grow? And that's the part everybody gets. But without that first part, you're actually going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to waste a lot of money in the growth part. But then the other part of marketing strategy that people forget is the customer strategy. Once somebody becomes a customer, what do we want them to experience? How do we want them to be an advocate for our brand eventually? And then the cherry on top of that pyramid then is the team strategy, because that's who's going to actually execute. And so just putting all five of those things together and thinking about them as one is how you actually effectively integrate marketing strategy into any business.
Now, I love that you talk about the team, because we can come up with the best strategy, the best plan, the best system. And if we don't have a team to execute or align to that, it's just the best strategy, the best system, and it never gets executed. Working with, small, medium businesses, what are the challenges around that? Because a lot of times, in my experience, I'm sure it's your experience, the team is made up of, they're wearing multiple hats. It could be sales and marketing. It could be the CEO is marketing. It could be, the customer success team is wearing the marketing hat too. Talk a little bit about that when you go in and work with organizations, and how do we, get that team in place?
You're absolutely right. I mean, most people there are very few people that have this is your only job in small, mid-sized companies. So one of the things that we do from a marketing standpoint, it leaks out into all areas, but is to help them create a functional org chart. And what I mean by that is what jobs need to be done, not like who's in that box. But let's first actually say, well, we've got this function in our business. Okay, now let's figure out how it can be done, or who can do it. Maybe even outside our organization. We work with a lot of folks where we help them create a hybrid department, if you will. We're their fractional CMO. They have two people internally. We bring two other people to them. So, but we can't really do that effectively without that functional org chart. A lot of businesses just go, we need marketing help. Hire this person. They'll figure out what to do.
Yeah, and that happens a lot, by the way. I know we're joking about that, but that happens a lot. And it gets back to that, now we have an outside person, trying to align to the inside strategy that may not be fully baked. And right after my own heart, thinking about jobs to be done, function chart, and I know a little bit about Metronomics and just understanding who's doing it now, how do we get it done? And then what do we scale to? What would that look like team-wise?
Well, and another scary part of that you left out is what should we stop doing?
Yes, yeah, that's perfect. It's perfect because a lot of times we just keep adding. We keep adding. And, you know what? For A players, there gets to be a point where we've added too much and they're not doing anything well. And we're not doing anything well as a team. And we know the results of that. I want to go back to something you just talked about, which is you talked about, after we get a customer, right? So we've marked it after we get a customer, but, we're focusing on them well before they have decided, yeah, they're buying from us. And I believe it's in the Ultimate Marketing Engine. Now you correct me if I'm wrong, that you introduce customer success track. Is that right? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's an important concept for people to understand. And just thinking about how it can drive real growth.
So we actually just created it for ourselves, quite frankly, and then, found that, wow, this is universally, applicable. So the idea behind it is, as a marketing agency, marketing consultant, we come in, we do advise, but we also implement tactics. A lot of times we have to fix the foundation. Stuff's broken, it's not working, right? So that's like stage one. But we don't continue to do that for years. We've actually now made the promise of marketing more available to them. So now what's next and what's next? So the idea behind that is we are actually able to map out, where a customer is and in a whole bunch of areas of marketing that they need to accomplish, because we know that, that stage is going to create these challenges and we're going to create these milestones to get them out of those challenges. And we know that if we do that, here's the promise of that. And so we have clients that our oldest running client is 2004. So they just went on their 21st year with us. And, we couldn't obviously just write another blog post every week for them, right? So they went from, $1.8 million when we started working with them. They're now a $50 million business.
Wow.
And so we had to mature their marketing,
yes.
With them. And so the idea is to actually have that planned. So we're actually able to go to a client and say, look, here's where you are now, but here's where we're going. And it allows them to kind of see that marketing's not just this bunch of tactics that we try and, hope work, that there actually is a growth and a maturity plan to it. I believe that every business that serves clients could actually have that version, whatever it looks like for them, of sort of planned stages of growth with a client, because you're going to grow with them.
I love that you talk about sort of planning those stages of growth, looking ahead. Of course, we love that here at Metronomics. But a lot of pushback, and I'm sure you've seen it over the years, and a lot with small business, they see marketing as a cost center, right? Instead of a revenue driver. And, what's your take on shifting that mindset? And how can business leaders prove the ROI of a strong marketing system? Because, it's that hope it works, throw some cash at it, fingers crossed, oh, didn't work, do it again. And it's exhausting. We've seen leaders get exhausted. How do you shift the mindset?
So you're absolutely right. Turn a cost into an investment, because that's really what effective marketing is an investment in where we're trying to go. So an understanding of where we're trying to go actually kind of starts helping that mindset, because most people realize, well, yeah, we have to invest. If we have this goal and we have this vision of where we're trying to go, most people concede, yeah, we're going to have to invest in that somehow to get there. So that's step number one. But step number two that I find is a real crime with most marketers is that they want to get the business. They want to look at all the results we got you. Look at all the traffic we got you. And what we do almost immediately, and we have varying degree of success with this, is I want to see it at the P&L, because what I'm going to show you is here's what it costs to acquire a customer. Here is your ROI, on every dollar that you invest. And most marketers, most agencies just want to do the tactic, give a proposal, look at what we did for you. I want to bring marketing leadership to the organization. I want to become an advocate for the customer for your organization, because nobody else is. And I want to see it at the P&L, or we probably shouldn't play.
Definitely seen this in the smaller businesses we work with. And when we're coming in, but even through a lot of small businesses outsource they're using fractional, they're using all, any way to get it done because they don't have the ability to invest in that full-time resource. What are some of your, recommendations? What are some of your thoughts around how does a team get through that period? Because, I love your story about the 1 million to the 50 million, but, companies that are listening in that are in between, even I'm going to say 1.5 to 10 million are struggling with this, as you know.
I think and I've been using this word a lot. We actually put ourselves out there as a fractional CMO. But, that means a lot of things to a lot of people. But what we really bring to them is marketing leadership as a service, because that's the thing that is missing. And that's why they buy the idea of the week. That's why nobody's showing them how to measure. It's not because, a lot of it's because they don't have the time and the resources, but also part of it's just because they don't have a trusted advisor that's actually showing them how all of these pieces work together. I'm always floored when I come into a business and they've got a web person and a content person and an SEO person and a social person, and nobody's talking to each other. How is it possible even? So just having somebody who can orchestrate all of these moving parts for them. And let's face it, how many of your listeners got into business because they were great marketers?
Yeah.
Very few of them, right?
No one. Unless they are a marketing firm.
So, finding that trusted advisor who can actually, bring all the pieces, the moving parts together is such a crucial role.
Yeah. And I love that you stack that up and it's leadership, because leadership's going to be able to drive the system, right? And getting the parts of the system working. And everyone's just looking for, can you help me?
Well, what they really want to do is they want to abdicate marketing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how they get burned.
Yes. Yeah. Most of the time, it's like, oh, marketing's here. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back over here because I really didn't like wearing that hat. If I can switch gears a little bit, because this is on people's minds right now, which is thinking about the future of marketing. And there's a lot of tools out there. Oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. And if you don't have that system, it can even be more overwhelming, as you know. So AI and automation are definitely changing that marketing landscape. How do you see small and mid-sized businesses adapting to the shift while staying true to the principles of duct tape marketing?
So I see it as a huge opportunity. We now have supercomputing. We now have access to all the IQ. We now have access to, getting things done. It's all been democratized. I think for every time a technology has gotten democratized, remember when databases were not out of reach for small businesses? When all of this technology gets democratized, it's a win for small businesses. But the piece that they still have to lean on is this leadership component. Strategy is more important now than ever, because what AI is doing is it's giving us all ability to look the same. It's giving us all the ability to make mistakes faster, and larger. And so the leadership component, I think, is even more important. As we get all this IQ available to us, EQ is going to become more important than ever. Putting context, telling stories, making sure that our brand is represented the way that we want it represented. Right now, at least, AI is not able to do that. And so the mistake that people are going to make is they're going to go, oh, look, we have all these tools to do all the jobs for us now. And instead, they need to look at how do we manage all of these tools so that we can actually deliver far greater value on our brand promise.
And, the other thing I think of when I think of that marketing system and the pieces and applying AI and automation to it is we get to pick the gaps or what we're feeling are gaps in our process and not only be smarter, but streamline them, right? Be smarter and streamline them through that. If we think about Metronomics in this, and, we're helping build a rhythm of execution and strategy and execution. We're working together. What's the marketing equivalent of that rhythm? So how should CEOs be thinking about marketing in their day-to-day and quarterly planning? So we're always keeping the big plan driving forward. We're working with our CEOs plus leadership teams. When we think about marketing, what's the rhythm? What do you put forward? What's your take on that leadership piece?
So the way in which we do it, I mean, is as you're planning business objectives, you certainly have to have your people have all kinds of names for them, your true north, measurements, right? The things that if the CEO looks at this, it's like, I'm on vacation right now and they gave me these numbers. It's like, I can tell everything's okay, right? You have to have those numbers. But I believe the largest planning unit that a small to mid-sized business can really handle is quarterly. And so, our belief is, here's our plan, here's our goal for the year. But every quarter we are adjusting. We almost open up the strategic plan every 90 days and say, what worked, what didn't work, what's next? What do we need to be doing more of? And that for us is, how we're measuring, but, we're taking in data every week, of course, and making sure that we're, red light, green light, yellow light, kind of thing. But we're really kind of reassessing the strategy every quarter.
Love that because, I think that's why I like your system because it aligns with our system. We're looking at that day, week, month, quarter, and we're constantly mapping it forward. And not that, we have those widgets, what we call widgets, are measures of success, both fiscal and non-fiscal, which plays well with marketing. Marketing has so many. Do you get asked often or within this, like, what are the key measures that come to mind? And maybe it's different for every business, but what are the key measures for marketing? Like, how do you know the system's working?
It is different for every business, and it's tied to what you're trying to do, right? I mean, if you're running a bunch of advertising, your return on ad spend is very important, for example, right? But if you are let's say an accounting firm, and people aren't hiring you because of ads, they're hiring you because you did a good job, your reputation. A lot of cases, referrals, might be a really, really key metric. Are we getting, and then retention, of course, in professional services is a giant metric as well. But then we might, then we will say, okay, if brand and thought leadership and authority are important for this company, then how can we measure that? Well, is it mentions? Is it, engagement in social media, engagement in their content? So we'll always try to come up with very tangible things to sometimes measure intangibles.
Oh, and I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to throw that in as a question, because I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people get disenchanted with the continuing to invest because they're not willing to forecast what they thought would happen with that investment and then measure against that. And that's for business too. I'm going to say that out loud. That's for business too.
It is a crime, to see. I mean, we go in a lot of times, people will be running AdWords accounts, for example, and we'll do a quick audit on it. It's like 70% of what you're spending is wasted, but because nobody was looking at the dials or measuring, at that level, it's like, well, I don't know, we're getting leads from our ads.
Right.
Right.
But maybe it could have been a whole lot more for a whole lot less, right?
Exactly.
For CEOs who are listening in, or any leaders listening in today who feel overwhelmed with marketing, what's the one thing they should do this week to start making marketing work for them, not against them?
This week? It kind of depends on what kind
I just feel like this is your desperate CEO who needs marketing to work. What do you recommend they do?
So this is not going to be very satisfying because this is a long-term answer. Okay.
Good.
Figure out who 10 of your best customers are. And it might be revenue, but it might just be they're not a pain in the butt as well, right? They were a good fit, right? So figure out who 10 of your best customers are and get them on the phone and talk to them for about 20 minutes about why they stay with you, what you do that others don't. And don't let them say, oh, you provide good service. What does good service look like to you? Tell me a story about a time we provided good service. You will get if you listen to those interviews, you will get so much insight into what your message actually should be, the problem that you actually should be promising to solve, for the market as opposed to telling everybody what it is that you do.
Amazing. So I love that answer. Of course, it goes back to our core customer who buys at core customers can only be a core customer if they buy at a profit. So go talk to the top 10 core customers. So if you had to build a marketing system from scratch today, okay, think about, 3 decades ago, you started building the system. Knowing what you know now, what would you do differently, if anything?
Much. I did it perfectly. No. I don't know that I would do a lot differently because, if you think about, we didn't have the internet when I started, right?
Yes.
So much has changed. So it's hard
Yes.
for me to say, oh, well, I would have gotten on the internet earlier. I don't know what I would have done, right? But I will say this, and I tell every business that is saying, look, how can I make a difference? How can in my marketing, where should I be investing my time? Everybody wants to push a button and just have it be automated. Let's face it, good marketing, building trust actually takes time. I would invest in strategic partnerships all day long for most businesses. Find other people who have your customer, figure out something you can do of value to them, and let them introduce you to their customer.
Yeah, love that. Love that. So if you were a CEO listening in, or CEOs are listening in, and leaders are listening in, and marketing leaders are listening in, which book would you recommend they read first of yours? I'm sure you get asked that a lot, but which one would be the best to start with?
So the Ultimate Marketing Engine is actually, my publisher didn't want me to write a revised vision of Duct Tape Marketing. So they said, we would need a different title. So I just updated Duct Tape Marketing dramatically, and it's called the Ultimate Marketing Engine. So that's kind of the freshest, if you will, stuff. An evergreen book is the Referral Engine, because, many, many businesses are very reliant on word of mouth and referrals. So I'm going to throw, you only asked me for one, but I threw out
But
two.
I like that you threw both in there. I think it will really help the listeners figure out where to start. A lot of listeners, understand system, care about system, want that repeatable system, and everyone needs to unlock this. What's the, you've been working with businesses for longer than I have. So what's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Well, I really did. I gave it already, the idea of strategic partnerships. I got that bit of advice really from somebody very early on, that's where the money is, because you can, the right friend or client even might have 5 or 6 people that they can introduce you to. The right business in the right market might have thousands that they could introduce you to. And so just that was, I took that to heart, and it's really a large way that we build our business.
And I'm a huge fan of that. And, I recommend to listeners, like one of the things that we did in all of my businesses is we just sat down, we looked at the market map that we have in the Metronomics framework, and we just started making lists of who could be our partners. And then we organized them in priority. And then we just started going to actually, spend time on making those strategic partnerships. It's actually how I scaled the first company with my team, the second company with my team, third company with my team. So I love that answer, and I love the way you put that forward, as it's probably the best piece of advice we all could take and walk away with, because why try and do it yourself?
And I tell you, I think it's going to become more important, because I think trust is going to become more important. And because the buyer has all the control now. You think we're all using AI. Well, guess what? They are too. To be able to figure out, so, I think that the brand and your ability to demonstrate that you're trusted, you are to be trusted. And that comes through relationships and spending time, to develop those relationships. That's who's going to win going forward.
Where can listeners connect with you and learn more about Duct Tape Marketing and get in touch with you?
So pretty much everything I've been doing for the last few decades is at ducttapemarketing.com. So that's DUCTTAPE marketing.com. You can find the books we referenced. I have a podcast as well. You were a guest on my, so you can find lots there. The particularly for business owners, CEOs that listen, if some of what I've said today is something you think is missing in your business, we have an engagement we call Strategy First. It's a 30, 45-day window that will actually be able to figure out what you're doing and talk to your clients and do a lot of the things that would allow you to have a really greater idea of what your marketing strategy should be.
Yeah, love it. Thank you. I'm going to ask you one last question. If you had to leave our audience with one key takeaway about marketing work in a scalable way, what would it be?
Figure out the things that don't scale and do those like nobody else. Everybody else right now is trying to automate everything and use AI to scale, and those are great. But figure out the things with your core customers that won't scale. Things like calling them up on the phone, things like showing that you actually care about them not being customers, but about them getting what they want out of life. Those are the things that won't scale, and that's going to be the difference maker.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As you know, I'm a huge fan of your work.
Thanks, Shannon.
I just love that you spent time with us today. Thank you for your advice, your guidance, and teaching us about duct tape marketing today. So thank you, John, for being here.
My pleasure. Always great to visit with you.
Tip Top is brought to you by Metronomics.
To find out more about Metronomics and how this proven 20-year-old system will save you time and money as you grow up your business,
Visit metronomics.com. That is metronomics.com.
share your thoughts on today's episode in the comments and suggest topics you'd love us to explore the next time.
Also search for Metronomics in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else that great podcasts are found.